I'm Pam Seatle. Tonight, we take a look at the state of childcare in our city and the challenges so many families right across the city, including Amanda's here, are facing. We begin with Mayor John Tory announcing today that in this year's budget, it will include 300 new, fully funded child care spaces. Tory took part in story time after making the announcement this morning at a Lawrence and Dufferin daycare. The new spaces will cost $3 million, but more than 17,000 Toronto families are on the waiting list to get a subsidized daycare space. The mayor says other levels of government need to step up to the plate to ease the daycare crunch.
We need provincial and federal governments to contribute more towards childcare subsidies and affordable childcare in this city. The province has already announced its intention to introduce 100,000 new childcare spaces across Ontario. This is a very important and a very commendable initiative on their part. And it has been accompanied by some encouraging words from the new federal government. But these spaces that are to be created with capital dollars, as it were, will not make as much difference to Toronto families if they remain too expensive for most people to access.
The city currently funds over 26,000 subsidized daycare spaces, but many families have spent years waiting for one of the coveted spots to open up.
Access to childcare in the city is very frustrating. You know, their high-quality spaces are inaffordable, and access to spaces in general aren't available. The wait lists are so long.
Amanda Monday has a 2.5-year-old daughter and a 4-month-old son. She got herself on a wait list for full-time daycare when she found out she was pregnant the first time. 2.5 years later, she still doesn't have a spot. She's also on a wait list for her son, but even if she got spaces for her kids, she couldn't afford them. Her family does not qualify for subsidized daycare.
If I was going to put her in care from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., $2,200 a month.
Per kid?
Per child per month. If both my kids were in full-time center care in the city, it could be close to $5,000 per month.
Is that?
Which is not affordable for our family. It means that with those types of childcare fees, I would have to look at whether or not it makes sense for me to continue working. And I love my job.
How do you like going to daycare? You like it?
Yeah.
Right now, there are more than 26,000 subsidized daycare spaces in the city, but another 18,000 people are on the wait list. So John Tory's announcement of 300 new spaces is a drop in the bucket. Not only that, but the city is planning to pay for the new spaces in part by taking away the 20-year-old occupancy grant. That's when a daycare is in a school, the city pays the rent for the space. Parents and daycare advocates say it makes no sense.
The childcare situation in Toronto is terrible, and it lurches from crisis to crisis. So there aren't enough spaces, there aren't enough subsidies, there's a huge affordability problem, there are quality problems and all those kinds of things. As I understand this, making more subsidies by taking money away from the rent supports that go to the school board would be just basically robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it would be actually moving the money from here and over here. So all it would do would push up the affordability issue, which we know is a crisis.
John Tory has said he wants the province to cover the cost of the rent in schools, but at this point there's no guarantee that'll happen. And without that rent subsidy, there's no question costs will go up for childcare that is already the most expensive in the country.
If the subsidy were to be taken away in terms of them paying the rent, we would really have a challenging time with that because the rent is very expensive. Square footage, I can't remember what the exact amount is, but it would mean that we would need to increase our fees, which are already huge for families, and we have a lot of full fee paying families here.
I see.
So it's over $1,800 for infant, over $1,400 for toddler, over $1,300 for pre. It's a lot of money.
McMurrich Sprouts Daycare is inside a school and charges as much as $1,800 per month for its infants. Some estimates are that without the subsidy, the fees could go up as much as $300 a month.
If we were to raise our fees by $300, we would lose children.
Now, Martha Friendly says we should take the example of other countries and even other provinces for affordable daycare. She says countries like Finland, Sweden, and France fund the system as opposed to funding families.